Hello, my name is Matt in a Hat, and I am here with my good friends from overseas, and we are going to be playing a Eberron Genesis game called In the Name of Progress. So we're going to get right in. We have been a little while because people have been moving and having fun stuff in their life. It is a busy time, but we're excited to be back and to be in each other's company and to explore this world together and hopefully make a story for our characters together. It is the 26th of Olaroon, 999 YK, Year of the King. It is a Thursday. It is the end of a Thursday. We have been doing a bunch of things over the last couple of days. We got here to Throneport. We met Rontaltain, the face of the council. We went into the sewers and had to deal with some oozes. We have learnt about a missing Thranish family and tracked them down to a museum, and more succinctly than that, a painting in the museum where they were being protected by a kami of the Thranish people. We eventually figured that out. We came back to report that they were safe. We did some training in the town. We what else? We found a plant at the family's farm, which looked like a weed. It turns out that it's got some pretty potent properties. Some onomatopoeia there for you folks. And we've decided that yeah, probably someone needs to know about this. And we've recently gotten a couple of new side quests and main quests. So where we're at, we've got a personal quest tonight for Rontaltain to meet with him and have dinner with him and his dad. So we're going to be pretty much launching straight into that. Tomorrow morning, we've got a brunch with Mordrin DeCannath, one of the scion of House DeCannath here in Throneport. He apparently has something for us to do. And on Saturday, we have a summons to meet with Casimir, a local inquisitive, private eye, all-round, you know, consummate professional on Saturday morning as well. So we've got a bunch of these little appointments, things to do, a little bit of space in between, a little bit of time in between. Let's check in with our characters very quickly to see what they're thinking, what they're feeling as we head towards Rontaltain's home. So let's start with Lorenzo. Lorenzo, what are you thinking, feeling, or otherwise accompanied by?
Lorenzo is wide eyed and still processing everything they just heard being sucked into a painting. Probably quiet, looking down at his feet rather than forward like he normally does. Probably a little bit beat up and having his weapon ready.
Hmm. Very good. And Ashley, as you've recently solved the problem of the bleeding with Lynx's help and gotten yourself situated with these new quests, what are you thinking and feeling?
Oh, similar to uh bleh, to Lorenzo, where they are just kind of like that was an excuse is like none other. Um, and feel like Ashley would also just be trying to house everybody, but just kind of like that's where they're at in the like would rather kind of off off a little bit in the vent, but they're not upset. They're just we need to talk about this. And
Mm.
so they may be a little on the chatty side, checking in with their um, friends and to be like, "You guys are good. That was do you wait what? Did I see this correctly?" And so that's kind of where Ashley's at.
Okay. And Lynx, after being successful in treating some wounds, even though it was a little bit difficult to start off with, and you've learnt some things. How is Lynx feeling?
We seem to have a consensus of moods.
Just everyone's just like, what is even going on?
I think Lynx is feeling a little bit elated, or not elated, but like she's feeling pretty good about the fact that she was able to help Ashley. But yeah, she's like thinking over all these things in her mind that we talked about with she's still going over and over the potential connection between Eduardo Montalban, maybe the people at Absent Minded, and she's wondering, she's actually concerned about she's kind of pondering the integrity of the Wayfarer Society, and just, kind of wondering, like, her mind's reeling a little bit about, like, who can we trust, and so she's alternating between, wow, I can't believe I was able to help Ashley to, oh, but what about this thing? Are we working for the right people? So she's in a back and forth as well. So it seems like the group's probably fairly quiet right now.
Yeah,
So
a bit introspective, which is all good as you make your way to Rontaltain's house. When you get to his address, you find it to be a relatively common looking house. It maybe is a little bigger than what maybe the poorest would have, and indeed, at least the garden is relatively well maintained. But just looking at the outside of the house, um, it there's nothing to sort of state that he's anything but a regular citizen. Which I don't know, in a place like Throneport, where the divide between the rich and the poor is fairly pronounced, it might be not necessarily a surprise because you've met Rontaltain, you've seen the sort of person that he is. He's living quietly. He probably has enough money to live better than this, but he's decided to live quietly. It's a nice house, but not ridiculous, not a manor by any stretch of the imagination. Just sort of a working class house. You knock on the door, and Rontal answers the door. You walk on in. There's a little place to hang up your coats, and there's a table, a kitchen table, where he gestures for you to take a seat. He has a big pitcher of water on the table, some cups for it. Everything seems pretty common. It's a decent sized room. You feel a little bit restricted in here because it's not the type of place that you would imagine gets a lot of entertaining. It's just not quite big enough to entertain even. But there's only three of you. so you can fit around the table, okay. There, you know, but you're not quite elbowing each other, but you're just on that edge, right? You don't quite have enough room to stretch, but you do have enough room to at least eat your meal without bumping the next person immediately. That's sort of what you've got here. And as you take your seat, have a bit of water. You can smell the food cooking. Rontaltain is just so the kitchen is and dining is sort of a divided room. It's all one room, but there's like a counter in the middle. And so you can see him and is pottering about. He's actually doing the cooking himself. So he's in the middle of that, or right towards the end of that, rather. He's serving out the meal. You can smell pork on roasting coming out of the oven, and he brings out a little jar, and it's a homemade brew of it's like an apple jam almost, that you can or jelly that you can put onto the pork, and he serves out some seasonal veggies with it, and he brings out the platter. He brings out plates, and basically it's a matter of you take what you want out of what is presented. Everything's in the middle of the table. Again, it's relatively simple, very seasonal, nothing exorbitantly expensive. And you recognize that there is one sitting at the table, with a plate, with knives and forks, who's not currently occupied. And Rontaltain calls out, and he sort of says, "Oh, Dad, it's time for dinner." Up the stairs. This is a 2-story building. The upper story is pretty much just the bedrooms. And yeah, you sit around, you wait for a minute, and down the stairs comes a man. He is quite elderly. He's between 80 and 90 years old. He's grey hair. He's a human, just like Rontaltain is. But he is absolutely stark naked.
Oh.
So just mutters under their breath. Nothing weirder.
Link slaps her hand over her face and turns her head away so she's not looking at him.
Yeah.
Is there like any obvious room?
Is there any obvious what? Robe?
Like lounge,
Yeah. There's like there's things that you could use, but as soon as he sort of appears this way, walking down the stairs, so Rontal is kind of looking at you rather than him, and then when you clap your hand sort of over your mouth, he looks over and he's like, "Dad, get back upstairs. Just you need to put some clothes on." um, and so the old man he sort of stops towards the bottom stair. He doesn't look ashamed at all of his state. But Rontaltain is like shades lighter than beetroot red at this point. A little bit, a little bit surprised that his dad has come down in this state. He stands, he coughs. There's apology in his eyes, and he walks over to Tebow, his dad, and he escorts him up the stairs. And he says, we'll just be a minute."
Yeah, so actually enjoys a nice long drink from their wine glass because there better be wine.
Yeah, there is a single, excuse me, there is a single bottle of fairly standard wine that has been chilled and is there. It hasn't been corked yet, though. So if you would like to do that, you may.
Lorenzo is already corking it.
Okay, thank you.
Lynx will pour a glass of water for herself and for Ronzel's dad.
Yeah.
Gesture to everyone to see if they want any water.
I'm gonna need something. I'm very
Lorenzo's already pouring Ashley's cup. Just looking at them, waiting for them to say when.
A centimeter from the top. They'll be like, thank you. When? Okay. Takes a nice big drink, doesn't empty it, but like maybe gets it down to about half full in their cup.
Wow.
Just saying.
Lorenzo goes. Lorenzo fills his cup up completely and starts chugging.
Cheers.
Lynx will pass her wine glass to you to fill since you're pouring. If
For
you don't
Lynx?
mind.
There you go.
Hmm.
Me.
But at a, halfway.
Lorenzo does it.
No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
That's enough.
you'll be thankful later.
I don't drink wine too often.
All right, that is more for
I don't
me.
want- There only seems to be one bottle, so I don't want to.
You're right, we need to save him at least a third of a bottle.
It was after his dad came down.
Yeah, it's not. It's not an especially long time that you're waiting. So by the time you've corked and poured each of the glasses of wine, and maybe taken a sip and had a word or two to each other, both Rontal and Atibo will descend the staircase again. This time, Atibo is at least wearing the semblance of social appropriate attire.
Open up the wine to start. Ashley will say.
What was the word? Sorry, didn't quite catch you.
Come back and say like, we started with the wine and it's delicious. Thank you.
Yeah. He nods and he says, "Oh, thank you very much for pouring our glasses. Yes. I did select this wine to complement our meal tonight." And he gestures to the pork roast, and he says, I do hope that you enjoy." He seats his dad on, make sure he's seated, and he comes around the table, brings a carving knife with him, and a big sort of two-pronged fork to help with that. There is a chopping board on the table, so he moves the pork to that, and he begins to carve it in thin slices, and it is falling off the bone. It's quite juicy, looks pretty tasty, and while he does that, he gestures to the rest of the vegetables, and makes as if to say that you guys can help yourselves to whatever you like. There's a combination of just seasonal. It's just spring, so it's mostly winter vegetables. That because it's only we're just coming to the end of winter, so yeah.
Everything smells so good, Mr. Kane.
He says, "Oh, thank you very much. It is a rare privilege to have guests over, and I'm trying to make an effort to see each of the groups of adventurers that come in, and just get to know you all, and see how how everybody's adjusting to the work, and there are people from out of town that have answered my summons. After all, I recognize that you all are from Throne Port and have at least spent a few years here, if not your lives. And but there are a few that are from out of town, and I'm just taking time to get to know you, and hopefully you enjoy the meal. And if you've got any questions for me, feel free to ask. Any dishes he cuts the meat, and he allows you to take whatever portion of it that you want. He doesn't force it upon you. Just cuts it and leaves it there. Does anyone want to strike any particular conversation with Runtle or his dad Atibo while we're here?
Nothing comes to mind for me.
There's a few things that you notice about the house now that you're sort of seated and eating. You can see that one of the upper rooms that you can even see up the stairs, you can it looks like there might be some renovations going on, and it looks like there's a little bit of a framework of holding some things up, and that might be doing some replacing. And yeah, it looks like there's just ongoing works. There's no sign of actual workmen here. And in fact, even though Rontal is wearing, the apron and stuff, and his hands are clean, you do get the sense that underneath his apron would perhaps be work clothes for his extension.
Are you building this yourself?
He says,
Looks like
"Oh, yes, I am in the process actually of restoring this home."
how it's a historical home then?
Uh, yeah, he sort of seems a little bit taken aback. He says, "Yeah, a lot of the homes here have been here a while. This one, well, it it wasn't it wasn't really in this state when we moved here, um, and so I've just been trying to return it to a nicer time, give it back some love. It doesn't seem to have had it for a little while."
Oh, that's so nice. It's a lovely place. I like it. It's so cozy and comfortable.
He blushes very so slightly, and he says, "Oh, it's very nice of you to say. It is, it is enough for us. When I when the war ended, um, well, my dad, well, he retired, I guess, and um, he he really needed a solid place, a place that rely on, that he could get used to, and remember, because there's, his memory. Well, the war. um, and when he says this, Sativo will sort of shake his head as if to say, like, that this is not the sort of topic that he's interested in, and he will instead start to speak about different species of flower that he particularly appreciates. Just randomly. Oh, did you see that the spring buds are appearing? And he'll name a couple of the most common spring flowers that are starting to appear right at the end of summer, and how the recent cold turn right at the end of winter, he hopes that it hasn't stunted their growth, things like that.
Do you like to garden?
He says, well, it is rather freeing. It's something to keep the mind from wandering. And I guess nature has a lot to teach us, he says.
Never thought about it that way. That's a neat perspective.
Huh.
Yeah, I'll keep track for those flowers as they bloom. I forget to stop and pay attention to these things sometimes in my rush all the time. The next job.
He says, yes, I once did that, and there is an amount of regret, I suppose, of not taking a breath and realizing that there's perfume in the air.
Oh, yeah, then there's perfume, anyways.
And indeed, there's, even now in a time of peace, there is so much unrest, and I think that people probably aren't taking the time to pause and realize that how much we have and how important it is to appreciate and be grateful. The presence of a father or a son or a cousin, the fact that they live, that and
Yeah, well,
yeah, he's just going on about that.
Lorenzo is in the process of pouring his third glass of wine.
That's probably all there is. Yeah, so the last couple of drops of wine fall into your glass. It's only about half full when the last drop um, uh, gets there.
The food is delectable.
Mr. Kane. What?
Sorry, I might need you to repeat that. And
Yeah, I didn't hear that at all.
What what's your opinion of the Wayfinder Society, Mr. Tane? I mean, what do you know about them? What's their reputation with you?
he says they're a corporate entity, more than anything. He says the Wayfinder Society is just one branch of a much larger corporation. which is 12 Moon Holdings. He says 12 Moon Holdings, they own a lot. They own a lot. And Wayfinder Society, well, they make Wayfinders. They make a lot of the very common items that people use every day. We have House to Cannith, who are artificers, and they're right on the edge of science, magic, many things, and they have a lot of the factories, but that sort of pour out magic items, but whereas the Wayfinder Society, they're not a rival to the house by any stretch of the imagination, but they do circulate less fringe items. Things like the compass, even the magically imbued ones, which are called Wayfinders. And they have indeed, manipulated crystal to and different rocks, different elements and different locations to they're widespread, and they've found different uses of them that perhaps, I guess, tapped into nature a little bit. The areas, places of power around the world, and extracting them in mineral form and employing them in their wares, which is interesting. He says here in Throneport, the Wayfinder Society is really just another corporate organization owned by a corporate organization, and here they own some land, some property, and they look after some of the employment for sort of lower class or unemployed citizens, and also some of the orphanages and things like that, and take care of funding those things. They do an okay job in some districts, and well, sometimes not as well in other districts that might be struggling a little bit more. But the struggle is something that is difficult to overcome. So it may not be entirely their fault. Why do you ask?
Named Eduardo Montalban made an offer on that farm we visited. And the Hornets seem to think that they're in potential danger, that Eduardo may be posing a threat to them.
He says,
huh. So, I don't know, I kind of wondered, because, they seemed fine when we met them, but we haven't met this Eduardo person, so...
He says, I don't know Eduardo personally. I have heard the name. More than once I've had, not exactly complaints, but a few women have mentioned that he might be a little bit of a womanizer.
He starts choking a little bit of his roast a little bit at the mention of that. You don't say.
Uh, I do I do say but it's just rumor and allegation. Might just be something that's on the wind. But I've heard it around that he might push a little hard.
Hmm.
So what you are claiming is that he lacks elegance.
I think he just likes women's company, and he thinks possibly that he might be God's gift to them.
Oh.
And as opposed to maybe those that might be, he reportedly isn't.
Oh, isn't that always the case? So, so as a character, I am not remembering. I didn't make thorough enough notes, I guess, but I noted that I was concerned about the possibility that he is potentially connected to absent-minded in a less than um, terrible way. But I don't remember what prompted that. Maybe it was their interest in the plant, the interest in the plant.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. So
I'm not sure
Mhm.
about that, but I remember enough to make an intelligent pose an intelligent question.
Yeah. So we have some solid info about who Eduardo Montalban is. And we have rumor, and then we have speculation, right? They're three different things. The solid information that we have is that he is the Director of Social Affairs at the Wayfinder Society and has been for not all that long. He's relatively new-ish to his position. We also know that the Wayfinder Society as a whole, they do fund a lot of things, and one of the things that we found that they funded was the Thranish Museum. When we mentioned Rontaltain, the guy, I can't remember his name now, but the staff member was just like whatever. But when we mentioned that when we had a job from the Wayfinder Society, they're like, come on in. And we're like, what? Why is that different to like Rontaltain, who's like the face of the council and seems to be more important? But it seems like the Wayfinder Society are certainly funding the museum, and certainly there was a lot of um, advertising inside as well, logos of the Wayfinder Society, things like that, to do with the Thranish Museum. It's one of the things that they fund. So that's something there. But how much Eduardo himself is a part of that, we're not sure. When we went to the farm, we found this plant, and that apparently Eduardo had requested, had put an order in for, um, but we don't have any reason outside of personal like suspicion that he has a connection with um, with absinthe-minded particularly. It was more just the information that we have suggests that he wanted the plant, and the plant has these rather illicit properties, it seems. So it further paints a picture that possibly this man might not be a good sort by the sounds of things.
Right. Okay, so we just that plant did had a pretty bad effect on our friend Ashley here. And I'm just really wondering about his interest in the plant. It doesn't seem like a very beneficial plant.
Runtal says, yeah, it doesn't sound. These things don't really sound very good. He said, what other beneficial properties might it have? Like you said that it caused some pretty awful things.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know when all we saw was a negative result. I mean, maybe there's something, but she was so immediately sick.
Yeah. Yeah, he says maybe we need to like make a move to like isolate that area, and maybe do some more research. It'll probably take some time. We can probably get Grelboyne Seymour to do some tests. Maybe he might even know already what it is or how to treat it. And if not, he's probably the one to do that sort of research. He's sort of into plants and sort of things. And you've met Grelboyne, the Archdruid here in
Right.
Jarrah Garden, and you would agree that there was a lot of plants, albeit that they were not particularly well tended because he had a lack of staff, if you remember that.
Right. Right.
But there were certainly many of different varieties in there.
That seems like a good idea.
For that. This may be a lot more in their wheelhouse.
Okay. I'm just trying to summarize these notes for us, so that we've got them here in our journal. Run things like the employment, like the LES, and some orphanages. Okay, there we go. That's there in our notes. Okay, so this conversation keeps going on. You can learn a little bit more about Rontal and his dad. You can, you can have discussed any of the goings on here and asked him about what he's really here to do and how he sees things. And he would tell you all of that. He would reinforce that his primary job is peace, and that's also his primary drive in life. He doesn't want to see the world return to war, and he believes that Throneport needs help, and he's here to facilitate that, bringing adventurers in from outside to try and deal with some of the issues that Throneport is facing. And he would say that his counterpart, the Dominé, is here to also enforce peace, but she's doing it a different way to him. He's trying to, I guess, lay the groundwork by sending people to deal with some of the problems in a peaceful way and clean things up, whereas the Domine is like locking stuff down. She's enforcing almost military law. We're not quite to that point, thankfully, but we're uncomfortably close, and the Horologium have powers that Rontal is not very happy with, and he's trying to fight against that. So he would just reinforce those few things and about what he's been doing and why he's here. I'll give everyone a last chance to like ask any pertinent or directed questions or make any pertinent comments in relation to your time here before we move the scene on. Know that if you want to do something in retrospect that makes sense later on here in this conversation, I'm totally okay with it, and I'm not going to penalize you for not thinking of it right now as long as it makes sense. So it's a little bit of a free like blanket, you can have talked about things even if we don't think of them right now. But I just want to make sure that there's nothing else that we want out of this before we move on.
Go ahead.
Say like I feel like actually at some point they're like definitely finished their giant glass of wine and feeling much more loose. I think like towards the end we just be like, are we gonna talk about what happened in the picture? And then just kind of like wait to see what the tone is or what everyone else at the table where it's like, all right, let's talk about that. That was weird. And I just, things like this doesn't happen, does it? Like, we never were able to get out of there. We have been stuck. And, all right, what was that? Why did that happen?
Good questions. All right, so Ashley has laid this on the table. We've just experienced something really nuts. We were sucked into a painting, and then all hell's feels like it's almost broken loose since then, and things have just gotten really weird. How are we feeling about it, and what happened, and how, so what, does anyone want to respond to that in character?
Lorenzo just very calmly explains what Ashley's talking about to Ron Tiltane.
Yeah, we did sort of report back a little bit, but, perhaps hadn't gone into a huge amount of detail.
Nope, that wasn't originally intended, and after explaining such, Lorenzo will give a beady eye look toward Ashley.
I don't get how that happened or why.
He nods, and there's a look of compassion on his face. He looks over to Ashley and he says, "It's very brave of you to approach a topic like this. When we experience things that are stressful or just not expected, our minds and our bodies do react in ways that we don't necessarily expect. And certainly it does sound like this was a pretty harrowing experience for you and unexpected. I don't really know anything about this painting or the magic behind what was going on, or I have heard the legend of Kami, something that the Thranish people hold dear. But like many people, I suppose, I thought it was just legend. And hearing that you've actually met one, and in such a almost disembodied way, and he's like questioning his own words. Would you agree that that's like a disembodied experience almost?
I mean, I felt very much there. It's like it sounds like you're saying it feel like it's out of body experience. Is that where it comes from? Because that's what it sounds like. And
Well, he's
it
just
was
trying to put it into words. He's trying to arrange it in his head, just like you are, even though you experienced it. He's only hearing about it, and he's just trying to get it right in his head. And he's like, yeah, it seems. I understand that could. There's a lot of questions. And he says, I'm afraid I'm not the one who might be able to answer that. And he tries to think of someone who might be able to, and he says, maybe a Thranish historian could inform what's happened a little bit, but the magic behind it you might need to talk to a mage or a cleric, who might have a bit more of an understanding of that. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sorry that you've gone through what you've gone through, and that your experience after coming out hasn't been the best. He says, if there's any way I can better support you that you can think of, feel free to let me know and I'll do what I can.
Do you know where this?
with more wine, that would greatly help me right now.
More wine.
As he was talking, as Ronsil was talking about that, Link kind of uncharacteristically drank all of her wine.
Yeah.
I mean, she's sipping it. She wasn't, probably hasn't drank a lot in her life, but she just kind of suddenly just kept at it while he was talking.
Mm-hmm.
So hers is now.
All right, so all of the glasses probably are empty by this point. Rontal will notice this, and he says, perhaps we can, if more is needed, we can do that. I haven't got anything chilled or prepared, but we can. There is some older vintage wine, that perhaps, I don't have anything fresh. If we feel like that's needed, I'm happy to break that out. He says it'll take a few minutes, but if you feel like you need to talk more and that would help.
Do you happen to know or have any connections to Eduardo Montalban? Like where he hangs out to pick up these women?
He says, okay, he says there are a couple of things. From what I understand, Eduardo, he works in Haven Point, down here, and he lives in Tharlan Point over here. And probably hangs around Lower Market. It's the midpoint. It's got lots of people about buying and selling things. he thinks, or, any of the markets around Barteros Street, being that that's kind of like the point, East Market, West Market, Lower Market, any of those markets, he probably hangs around that general area between work in Haven Point and home in Tharlan Point.
Right. Thank you. I think it would do us all good if we can confirm. I look over at Lynx. Is Lynx in her right mind?
I think so. Lynx has kind of withdrawn a little at this point, like, because she kind of neatly compartmentalized that somewhere else, and then Ashley brings it up, and she looks like somebody who just had a nightmare, like who just woke up from a pretty scary nightmare.
Yeah.
And she looks probably a little rattled, and she's not making eye contact with anybody right now. She's just kind of withdrawn, and she's like, it's going through her head again, the whole thing.
Yeah. So she's not in her right mind, but she's certainly laser focused on the fact that this has just been brought up again and almost reliving it, right? You like flashing before your eyes and just going.
It's one of those situations, right? So
if I say, do you think it is okay to talk about it? Referencing the plant.
I think if we can, I think we probably should talk about it.
Got it. So I'm sorry to bother you, Miss Lete. And again, he's been mostly drinking this entire time.
Yeah.
Like he's eaten some of his food, but like the alcohol was his first and foremost priority, is it? Lorenzo just kind of leans in a little bit. His just very piercing brown eyes, and just looks directly into him and gives a hand gesture where the two fingers are clenching into his thumb. And it's like something you might see someone do in excitement if they ate something that was really good for the first time, right? Pointing at him, and he's if there was a opportunity for the council to have enough money to rebuild and buy out land through Throneport, as in all of Throneport, what would you think?
He says.
Okay.
He says, my first thought is that would require a great revolution. He says, I don't see that happening. However, if it did, I'm not sure that they would know what to do with it. You see, the council, for a long time, they've made decisions and rules and laws, but the general populace have just kept on going as if it never happened in a lot of cases, and that's one of the reasons why it's sort of come out the way that it did, and why myself and the Domine were appointed in our positions. Because the council feels like their power isn't power. And I'm not sure that they would be confident enough right now to know what to do with that. I think if we stabilize things and if people start to listen to them again, that could go one of two ways. It could totally destabilize things because of corrupt individuals. If corrupt individuals got their hands on it, it would just make things worse. Or the reverse could happen. If good people who had a mind for statistics, for bureaucracy, for order, for fairness, had the run of it, then it would probably be a good thing for Throneborn. But that's a lot of ifs, he says.
He immediately stops what he's saying, and he thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
And he resides back into his seat and says, I guess we can talk about it another time.
Oh, okay.
What did you say? I don't know what you said. It was too quiet.
No, I said, I think we can talk about it another time.
Fair.
Very good. All right. I think that that's a pretty good spot to start fading this scene out. You've gotten some pretty good information about Rontal, about his dad, about how he sees things, and about what's actually happening with the council and their power, and also a little bit about Eduardo Montalborn and what sort of man he might be, and where he might hang out. So we've got some pretty good things there. So let's fade out from here. The rest of the meal goes pretty well, and it's a nice time. You head back to the Brass Ring Inn and have a good rest. You can reset yourselves to no strain and no wounds overnight, please. And I am going to go into our calendar. And I'm going to edit it. And we are going to read out the 26th because it is now gone. Boop. And we are now on Friday, or far, the 27th. We have a meeting with Mordrin de Kenneth this morning. It is a lovely morning, actually, compared to how it was. It is a lovely morning because we've had a storm, and now it's actually quite fine. It's a little chill on the air, but the sun is out. It's nice. And you're able to head out to see Mordrin de Kenneth. Now, Mordrin de Kenneth is in Coruscant, way over here in the red zone. So, actually not too far away from Southwall, where some of you are familiar. But in a much better district. In fact, probably Lynx only ever delivered people like to the border of Coruscant, and you've seen how pretty Coruscant is comparatively to other places around the Karnathi district. Koriskin has beautiful white marble or stone buildings, very stately, very like, Washington sort of, um, council presidential looking, pillars, all that sort of thing. Very dwarven architecture, resilient, but with gardens and things planted, as well as just being super secure. So yeah, you might feel maybe not intimidated, but like there's probably a degree of excitement of going there, because it's, pretty substantial difference in the type of people that move in those streets.
One more step and I'll be farther in here than I've ever been.
Nice. Yeah, and so you guys make your way through Coruscant, and indeed, as I said, you do experience this. There's people that are dressed like really well here, like just beautiful clothing, very stately, very aristocratic. Everyone's, tailored. Everyone's well presented. Everyone's pleasant and cocks their hat, as they're going by. There's a fairly large percentage of dwarves comparatively to other places in Throneport. While it's not unusual to see dwarves. It is unusual to see dwarves in this, to this degree, where they're pretty much everywhere, coming in and out of every building that you see. And everything's wide open, very clean, very orderly, and there's probably a couple of furtive glances in your directions, because you're not quite as stately. Now, not everybody is that. We're not talking about every single citizen, but you do. There is a sense that maybe it's not quite as much of a sense of belonging, because of the socioeconomic gap. But you make your way to the Enclave, where the Karnathi embassy, where Mordrin de Kenneth resides, and it's of all the things that I could use to describe this, even though it's not as big as a palace, that's the feeling that you get. Even though the actual fort and castle is beyond this, and you can see them from here, it's almost like walking up to a mini version of that. Walking up to the Karnathi Enclave and the embassy. There's flags everywhere. There's this big garden walkway, where all of the flags are in a semicircle. Everything's stately, everything's formatted well. The walkway comes all the way up. There's a big row of stairs that lead up. There's pillars. There's far too many pillars for the two doors that are there. The pillars just extend like both directions, under the roof, which there's like garden seats, that stand outside the windows of this place looking out upon the garden. So it's all ceremony and pomp leading up here. And so yeah, you can make your way up and meet with Mordrin de Kenneth. So let me go over to him and describe him to you. So, Mordrin de Kenneth is a raven-haired, blue-eyed man, recently emerged from his boyhood. Mordrin is said to have taken after his father, Curdrin, in looks but not physique. So he's a bit more slight of figure than his dad was, though you might not have met his dad. But you would see paintings of his dad, a quite broad, muscular man that Mordrin is not. Mordrin's angular face and wild stringy hair are synonymous with his branch of the family, as is the large high-bridge, knobble-tipped nose. He is slight, though not athletic, with long, thin fingers that lend well to his musical talent. And indeed, you can see a cytole, a lute, and a mandolin all sitting in his chambers that look regularly used. He will meet you. He's seated behind a rather large desk. He is kind of ashen-faced, I suppose, in his he's not smiling when you meet him. He's just, I don't know. There's something maybe reflective in his eyes, just like sullen, maybe is a good word, in the way that he is. He looks up as you approach. He simply gestures to the seats that are there. They're cushion seats, very good quality, very nice wood, polished. And you find yourselves extremely comfortable physically, maybe not so much emotionally, in his presence. And he says, my name is Mordrin. I have heard much things about you. It is from Rontaltain that I heard these things. He says you are adequately adventurous, and perhaps that you have a certain amount of skill. It is good to meet you. I might have a job for you. Please take your seats, and I will tell you what my troubles are.
Good morning, sir. Pleased to meet you.
So he will tell you about our main quest. Our next main quest. So we meet Mordrin de Kenneth, and he tells us about our next main quest. He would like us... so first he tells us about his troubles. His troubles are that he has heard rumors in the last couple of days that some archaeologists have returned to Throneport, who live out of Throneport or operate out of Throneport, have returned from their digs, and that they have, by rumor, found and secured a set of journals by one Pietro de Caneth, one of the de Caneth family. But disturbingly, they haven't come to the House de Caneth Enclave with this find. And Mordrin wants these journals. He says if this is real, and in fact they have found a journal of one of our family, a renowned member of our family, those journals belong to us. But our agents haven't really had a lot of luck in uncovering where they might be or how legitimate this information is. And I'm wondering that perhaps if someone that wasn't directly related to the house might have a little bit of a better chance of finding them, getting, into the streets that, you don't have our symbology, you don't have ties to us. And indeed, it is, Rontal said that you might have knowledge of the streets and the people therein, and possibly could find them. My task for you, he says, is to track down the archaeologists who have recently come back to Throneport, find out whether they really do have the journals of Pietro de Caneth, and if they do, to secure those journals and bring them back to us here at House de Caneth where they belong. You'll be handsomely rewarded for this if you were to succeed. And if you come across any difficulties, please return to us, give us any information that you have, and we will see to what needs to be done.
Do you think they just haven't brought us yet? They haven't had a chance to authenticate them?
He says that there are all sorts of people in the world. Some sorts of people want to see things returned or positioned into a place where they make sense. For some relics, that might be in a museum or a householding. Some people, however, are only out for money or power or prestige or glory or any number of other things, and might find other ways of other avenues of dealing with said items. So
Avoid eye contact.
he says, I can't be sure of who these people are or what their goals are, but that is something that I would entrust to you.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. I understand now.
We can certainly check this out for you.
Would Zal has any questions for us?
Do you know where these archaeologists were last seen?
What we know is that they came back into Strongport just recently, in the last 24 hours. perhaps 2 nights ago. We've just had a night and the night before. So, Anze has not been seen by our agents. We has just heard about their find, apparently. It seems like it might be real, but you never know with these types of people. But as far as where to start, well, perhaps some of the libraries or other maybe markets where people might try and sell things. If they are not the type of person who wants to return it to their rightful place, then perhaps places where they might get payment for such things. Or perhaps they needed to rest, in which case they would be in any of the amount of taverns, which again, many of them are in the market districts. So I say maybe try there first.
Right.
Do you have any further questions for him in regard to either the job or anything else?
Perhaps whether they arrived by land.
By land. So they arrived by a ship. Apparently, he said that the ship was from Flamekeep in Thrain. Ships travel there and back every day. It's not unusual to have a ship from there. In fact, it's one of the more common places where there'll be ships from. And apparently they arrived on a ship from Flamekeep.
As he says that, Lynx just like locks eyes with each of her companions.
Yeah.
The journals of Pietro de Kenneth. Attempt to secure the journals if the rumors are true. If you have issues, come back and he or the house will offer assistance. Okay, there we go. So that is our main quest that he has given to us. And Rontal basically said to you that what's kind of been happening and why he's asking you to do this, in addition to the fact that this is a powerful figure in Throneport and he wants to try and secure a better position and foothold. He says that Mordrin's been putting his nose into Thranish politics, even though he's a Karnathi, and he's been making a bit of a scene. And if we could distract him by doing something that he wants, that might, get him off our backs for long enough to solve some of the problems that we're having in Thranish politics. So there is that. All right.
Okay.
So you have the rest of the day. And then you have another appointment with Casimir in the morning at the Feral Dog. So at the moment, we're in Core Iskin here in the Karnathi zone. The Feral Dog is back in Daroon Gate, just down the road from the Brass Ring Inn, but not as nice of an establishment. So we have the rest of the day and a night to spend back in the at the Brass Ring. It is just coming on lunchtime. So couple of things. Do we want to A, skip time, B, do something for the rest of the day?
Or hopefully they'd want to kind of start in on if it's lunchtime, like maybe a later lunch, we could potentially like go to the docks and enjoy a drink or light lunch and just kind of shoot a conversation, see if anyone's heard about the archaeologist that had recently returned and at least start gathering.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know, is there a archaeological, what would it be, a center, a school with an like where would these archaeologists, college, library, work out of when they're in town, or would they?
Yeah, so a lot of that depends on where they're doing their archaeology. But the most commonly known place where that studies like antiquities and relics and things like that is the Throneport Museum of Antiquities, which is in Whitestone, in the Brellish area, so up near Daroon Gate. So that museum, it is primarily a museum about Zendrick artifacts, but if anywhere is to know about the artifact trade and relics and archaeology in general, that's your best bet of a place to start. As far as where who might have that sort of information or where people might gravitate toward upon finding something that they wanted appraised or whatever, they would probably tend to head there, even if it's not specifically a Zendrick artifact, just purely because artifacts are their thing.
Since the dogs are apart, that makes sense because they're first. It'll be on the way. Actually, it'll just kind of like like I won't. I think that makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Museum of what? Shiva.
Yeah, so yeah, we can sort of head in that direction, being that you've got the afternoon. So you can head up toward there. Is there anywhere else that we want to go, or like anyone else that we want to
Lorenzo,
ask before we get there?
as a brief thing to our. Well, actually, no, I kind of want to ask after we complete the quest, so never mind. To Lynx and Ashley, Lorenzo will suggest maybe going to Lower Market. Just stopping by on the way and start using connections. Because Lorenzo and Lynx both know a bunch of people. See if we can find anyone who's selling archaeological stuff, or whether or not there's a hotspot for deals in those markets, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think we should go to the museum because if they are proper, or I don't know, non-thieves, whatever, they'll have information there, hopefully. If we don't gather anything from there, then yeah, going to the market and then to the docks, like we can maybe find if they're being sold or whatever.
We might be able to kill two birds with one stone, as they say, once we hit the lower market, huh?
Yeah.
That sounds good.
So yeah, there are two ways we could go. We could go along Zukov Street, take the Silver Way down to Lower Market from Koriskin, and then go up, back up Daroon Way to Whitestone after. Or we could take Broad Street, cut across, take Broad Street up to Whitestone, and then take probably Owesk straight down to Lower Market afterwards, and Daroon Way down. So yeah, we can either go up first or down first. I sort of just need to know which we want to do first.
Lynx does too, but she'll listen to anything reasonable that Lorenzo has to say too.
Lorenzo was no. Either way's fine.
All right, well, let's go to Whitestone. I reckon you've got, that people that want to sell stuff probably would go there, or at least have some contact there that might know about recent archaeological digs. And then if we don't get anything, we can always head down to the markets and figure that out. So I reckon, and also given the opening hours of the library and the museum and things like that, it's probably safer to go there first. People are going to be around the streets for a lot longer than the museum's going to be open. So I reckon we go there first. So we head up to Whitestone. Let me describe the area for you real quick. We are in the Brillish Whitestone. Okay, so a few things that you recognize as you move through Whitestone. You see that the law enforcement here is held by the Brellish Guard in Brellish colours and Brellish coat of arms. They're pretty well organised guard, and fairly not so regimented as the Tin Men, but they're relatively law and order focused. A little bit more than Thranish, a little bit less than the Tin Men. So a lot of the government buildings of the Brellish people and the consulate are here in Whitestone. So you've gone from very government building Koriskin to very government building Whitestone. Though the government buildings here aren't quite so grandiose or quite so resilient as those in Koriskin, because Koriskin is made by the dwarves and this is not. Still, it is, is that sort of high collar upper class mansions, estates, and also you would notice that there are some Zil nobles, so gnomes, that congregate around the area. And you see both the Brelish consulate and the Zilago consulate here in Whitestone. You also have, being from Throneport, know that Whitestone is one of those places where knowledge is a currency, and you can buy and sell and trade information for information, or for even currency sometimes, if you have good enough information, or if you want good enough information, sometimes it will be sold, or other times traded. But that is something good to know. And you make your way to this location. So yes, the Throneport Museum of Antiquities. It is a rather extensive museum. There is a whole dedicated section to Zendrik. And in fact, the large majority of it is dedicated to Zendrik. There are quite a lot of bookshelves, all in rows, of rare or interesting books on archaeology, or just that are themselves archaeological finds, in addition to all of the displays of actual artifacts as well. As you make your way through the stacks, exploring and getting a bit of taking this place in, you will meet one of the librarians who is working the shelves. And you will meet her because of something that happens. She is currently on one of those wheelie ladders that you can push along the stacks to the next position. And she is precariously hanging over one of the stacks, trying to put this book back in the correct position, as you round one of the corners and see her. Her tan skirts are not scandalously revealing anything, but you do see a little flash of skin, not scandalous, but just enough to get a picture. Yeah, she's sort of precariously hanging over. She does manage, as you round the corner, to put the book in place, but you see her unbalanced as she does this, and that split second of just not knowing whether she's going to fall or what's going to happen. A little bit more of a description of her, and then I'll allow you to act just before anything happens in that split second. So she, other than the tan skirts that are knee length, she has a sort of off-white blouse that has thin grey vertical stripes. This is adorned with a loose-fitting black cravat, and she has a leather belt that secures her skirts. Curly brown hair and hazel eyes, and iron-rimmed spectacles that are currently falling off her nose because of her precarious position.
Lorenzo has never baseball slided so fast.
Alrighty, so yeah, you're sliding into position to catch the poor woman.
Yes.
Okay, let's have a check. Our first check of the session. It's been over an hour, so we should probably have some more of these. So let me actually hang on. I need to game master sheet. All right. It's very quick, so it's gonna be average, but it is gonna have a setback for just how quickly you have to, jump to this. You can feel free to make that check. It'd be coordination or athletics.
Okay. I'll make athletics.
Go ahead. Oh, that's not great.
Taking strain, I guess.
Yeah, that is a point of strain. And Lorenzo, you only managed to make this situation worse. Lorenzo just like runs for the poor woman in the air, and he just goes slightly too fast, knocking the ladder as she's on it, making it
no.
worse.
Oh no.
Oh my god, is now like other hand is now up clutching their pearls. I'm like, oh god.
So you guys, the other two, just before, like, it's in the exact second that Lorenzo's starting to move towards the thing. You can't change the result, but you can decide on your course of action. What are you doing as you see this woman starting to fall?
Lynx is heading for the ladder to try to secure it.
Okay. Probably the same check for you then.
So I'm sorry, it was athletics.
Yeah, athletics or
Mhm.
coordination, your choice.
Okay, all set.
You know what? I am going to use a story point. And I'm going to upgrade the difficulty because of Lorenzo's failure.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Just looking at my talents, I don't have anything to offset. Coordination.
All right, very good. Yeah, you make your way there, but Lorenzo is a bit quicker than you. In that direct second, just before they both get to the ladder there, Ashley, you see both Lorenzo and Lynx going for the ladder. What is your action? What is your reaction, rather?
Where, when the woman is looking very precarious, like Ash just kind of does a one hand of grabbing at fake pearls, like, oh my gosh. And then, like, as they're thinking that, and Lorenzo zipping forward and clearly about to make the whole thing even worse, just like other hands up to clutch metaphorical pearls. Oh my gosh. And so I'm pretty sure Lynx heads for just like a deer in headlight, just like, oh my god, look at this train wreck that has me completely paralyzed. So, sorry y'all, good luck.
Yeah, so you just watch on.
Like, I think if there's a huge crash, that'll like snap them out. Just kind of like
Okay.
can't believe what I'm watching.
Perfect. All right. So yeah, Lynx, you race for the ladder, trying to stabilize it, but Lorenzo, in his gusto, rushes past you, smashes into the ladder instead of securing it, and the poor woman falls unceremoniously on top of Lorenzo. And yeah, you have an armful of woman. Perhaps this was what you wanted in the first place, but she's rather dishevelled, and you definitely have not even cushioned the fall too much. You feel
I
the
tried to-
full brunt of her weight as she lands atop you.
Lorenzo quickly tries to help sit her up off of him and immediately apologizes.
Her glasses have come scattering off, and Ashley, being that you are sort of like frozen in that period, the glasses have skidded across the floor and have landed at your feet. She is currently glassesless, and Lorenzo is helping the poor woman to her feet. You hear a crash as the bookshelf that the ladder smashed into is currently collapsing into another bookshelf. Bang! And all through the other side of the shelves, like half of the books come pouring out onto the floor. Fortunately, there's a pillar that prevents it from falling further, but books go everywhere.
Glasses, but as soon as like bookshelves leaning and books falling, that gets them moving in the sense of away from the books. Whether that means getting back out of the place or moving towards their partner and the librarian lead person and like trying to like scuttle them out of danger. Like, oh, we're gonna die.
Yeah, so as Lynx is like, as Ashley's like trying to figure out whether she needs to run or which way, Lorenzo, you do manage to pull the woman to her feet, and look into her deep brown eyes. With that were previously
okay?
on. She sort of dusts herself off. She checks herself. She sort of says, I'm sorry. I, I, such a klutz."
Apparently, you and me both.
I'll go over and get her glasses, seeing them sitting there. She doesn't want a book or anything else to like.
Lorenzo reaches behind his back, like gesturing to bring them to his hand, while also still paying attention to her.
Catches that and does it.
Lorenzo starts like trying to wipe the glasses on like the prettier part that's left of his finer garment. You know, his revealing.
Yep.
I guess a shawl, kind of what it is over. While he does that, he gives like a nod back at Ashley, a quick IOU one, and then he puts the glasses on her face and tries to make sure he leans in. So the first thing she sees is his beautiful face and his eyes, which he thinks are his strongest feature, his eyes and his chin.
Sir. Oh, thank you. It's hi. I'm Evie.
Oh, forgive me, my rudeness. My name is Estali, Lorenzo Estali. And he gives a very deep bow.
Oh my. It is. Yes, I am a librarian.
mercenary. He says, like half confused through the statement, not knowing if this is like a cultural thing he didn't pick up on. Or...
Right.
Again, Lorenzo isn't the smartest person.
Yeah, of course. Very good. So yeah, she gathers herself, and she'll sort of see now, she's sort of seen you. She turns to see the state of the fallen bookshelf, and she says, "Oh, would you mind maybe helping me put these at least onto the trolley so that we can put them back in the correct position?"
Lorenzo's already picking up books, like, as she's saying those words.
Yeah. So yeah, she wheels over a trolley, and yeah, you can start to fill that trolley to over brimming with books because yeah, half the shelf just fell off. So
I like to think Lorenzo's in golden retriever mode right now. Anything this woman says, he's more than happy to help out with.
okay. All right. So yeah, you do that. Ashley, as you realize that when she starts moving towards the books, that the immediate danger is in fact over. The bookshelf has stopped falling, although it is leaning up against the pillar still. It's not quite, at its 100%, standing up straight, but it can't fall any further than it is. And so you realize it's safe, and she wheels the trolley over, and Lorenzo is doggedly picking up books, constantly looking up at her face as well. What do you want to do?
What? You witch, but no. Ashley's just like, it sits down. If there's a chair or a table area, it's like sits down. It's like, well, how's it going?
How's it going? If that's to her, she'll be like, "What? Just picking up the books that fell." She introduces herself to you as a librarian.
Yes. Okay, so I am not speaking Ashley right now because my brain's like, as flawlessly as Ashley. But essentially, he's going to ask Evie, where it's like, do you work with archaeologists? Do you have any information here in regards to like when archaeologists, do they bring them here to study or what?
All right. Well, I think yeah. So you've caught upon a topic that Evie is deeply passionate about. So as soon as you'd be like, "Oh, so what do you know about archaeologists and do they come by here?" Her face just lights the heck up. And Lorenzo, she was kind of, pretty, but as soon as that smile and her eyes beaming, there's a little bit more there. And yeah, so she's just like, "Oh, yeah, yes, we have lots of archaeologists. It is actually an area of passion. I would I study Zendrick. There's such amazing wonders. There's just ancient books and relics and." Did you know my brother recently arrived back in Throneport with some really miraculous finds from Thrain? Oh, it's so exciting.
Oh, please continue. Go on. And as he says that, taking books out of her hand and putting it on the dolly.
Yeah, so she's now like totally not thinking about the books at all, because her mind's totally on the archaeology, and so she sort of launches into this. Oh yes, they've just come back from a dig, and they're excavating this ruin deep in Thrain, to the south of Thrain, and they've just arrived back. 2 nights ago, he came back into town. The first thing he did was come in, and he threw his arms around me, and he said, "Evie, I found something wonderful," and it's just so exciting.
Oh, Evie, this is wonderful. Thank you. This is exciting. This your journal?
She goes, "Well, yes, but how did you know?"
Word gets around. I honestly love a little bit of archaeology myself, and so it's really wonderful to meet a fellow enthusiast of archaeology.
She goes,
Um,
"Oh,
yeah.
what era introduces, like, what era is your favorite? Like, there's so many to choose from. I know it's really hard to choose, but you've got like."
Brit is and like list off like a war from this. I remember someone talking about it, and I hope it's true.
Oh, that's
Because
yeah.
his thinking of being a Dumbo.
So is Ashley actually interested in archaeology? Yes. Sorry,
So
there's a little. Sorry, you were breaking up really hard in that.
Ashley is not
Not.
in archaeology, just bring it in.
All right. So what I'd like you to
Ooh.
do, please, is make a cool check. So, because she knows all about archaeology. So can you keep a cool face in her? Just like she's not interrogating you, but she's really interested in what your interests are, because it's archaeology. My goodness. Oh my lord. All right. Well, with those two threats, Ashley might give a little something away about herself that's beyond the archaeology, but she is thoroughly successful in keeping her cool. I don't need an aspect of your character per se, but what little tidbit would Evie pick up about Ashley with those two threats?
Oh goodness. I feel like Ashley's bullshitting, just kind of piecemealing, and I'm gonna say that Ashley dropped like a great grandparent name that with the era that they are talking about. And I could see that Evie kind of goes, let's say like Alexander Benedict, and I could see Evie like me like Alexander Benedict, and kind of thinks for a moment, and then tries to correct by like, sorry, I might be mixing up the names, but the general of the army, and like trying to get her to have her feed the name, and thank you, and so
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so that happens, but yeah, you absolutely go otherwise unnoticed, as you definitely with flying colors pass that check. Um, keeping your cool, not betraying your thorough lie. And she enthuses about archaeology with you through this.
So, go on an excavation. Like, have you ever done that? I think that'd be really cool. Do you think we might be able to see some of the things that they brought back? Like, I only heard about the journals, but I'm curious about some of the other findings. That it sounds really fascinating.
Yeah. So she says, "Oh well, my brother hasn't come back from making his rounds. But um, I could pass your name on to him if he comes when he because I think he's probably likely to secure another you know another escort back to dig more and find more because he was very excited as he should be. It's pretty a miraculous find. So I can take your name down if you like and pass it on to him when I see him next."
Kind of a quick look, glance at the others, and like, yes, Ashley Benedy. That would be fantastic.
Okay, it takes
Uh,
Ashley's name. It's so good to find someone who loves archaeology and is interested in that rather than in him.
Of course. In fact, I would love to just listen to you talk about it if you want to. Dinner, maybe?
One second. Takes Ashley's name to pass on to her brother, who has recently gotten back from an archaeological dig in Thrain. Sure. So let's make a check. She's really interested in archaeology. Let's give you a boost. She's not easy to casually date. Let's make this a hard check. Go ahead.
I remove a setback, I believe, from my charm with my robe. Let me see.
I don't have a setback.
Oh, sorry. You're fine.
we assist in any way, like when Lorenzo
No, it's
mentions like dinner, like, oh
I'm
yeah,
spending
there
a
is
story point, so.
Oh, okay. We're upgrading. Yeah. Okay. All right. Go ahead and spend that story point, sir. Good to see these being used. I like it when we use story points.
I'm sure you. I'm hoping to turn this into a double date dinner with her brother, so we can all
All right.
chat with them.
Yeah, sounds good.
Or
Let's roll the check. I have upgraded and given you the boost.
Okay.
I mean, one more now though.
Ooh, okay. These purple dice have been kind of harsh on you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you do get two advantages here. So you could learn a little tidbit about Evie. Not one of her character traits because that's 3. But you can learn a little something about her or about the situation in general, if you would like.
I will try to spin the conversation over where she likes to hang out and learn where if there's a place where she likes to spend time with her brother.
She gestures around her.
Okay.
She says, "Other than here, I go home and sometimes I'll take a stroll through the gardens." But this is where she spends 90% of her daylight hours. All
I'll be
right.
quiet.
Sorry, what's that?
Thank you.
I'm catching less and less of what's what's coming through.
Spending most of her time in the library.
Yeah. All right. So it's pretty clear to us that a lot of the details about Evie's brother seem to match what Mordrin was asking for. An archaeologist that got back in the last 2 days. Evie's brother has gotten back in the last 2 days. Archaeologist that was in Thrain had come through Flamekeep on a ship. He has also done that. So it seems likely that he is the person that we're looking for.
Excellent.
All right. Anything else here in the library / museum?
Link has been stubbornly trying to write that bookcase while all this has been going on.
Oh, okay.
She's been and scoffing and rolling her eyes and all kinds of various things and all the behavior going on, but yeah, she's just been trying to write that. I'm assuming it's really big, you know.
It
So I'm
is, yeah.
assuming
I will need you to make a check in that case. It is athletics. It is a hard check. And yeah, I am ready when you are.
very comical going on.
Oh, yeah, no. You try but it's far too big for you. So yeah, you push and you push. You're just not getting anywhere.
I have this vision of her like it's like a a slapstick kind of scene where she is it's like her feet can't get purchased and she's like doing with her back and doing all kinds of things and of course it won't budge because it takes at least two really big strong people if
Mhm.
not more
Right. Yeah, it's gonna take a little bit of work. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So there is this little comical scene while the others are engaging with Evie. But other than that, you guys can, if you want to make any further checks here, we will. Otherwise, we can move on down to. I mean, we found out a bit anyway. And all that Evie really said was Jonathan hasn't finished his rounds yet. So, does anyone want to make a check to see if they understand the innuendo?
Sure. Is that knowledge local or?
Let me quickly have a look at what might make sense here. So, social transition knowledge. Actually, I think that this is opposed by Cool, and I think that this is either a perception or like a streetwise.
yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Okay, I will let Lynx do this.
Yeah, so again, unfortunately, we do have a couple of advantages there. So we can learn a tidbit about the situation, just not the innuendo. So, what I'm going to inform this with is she's just super thrilled that here is a woman in Ashley who shares a love in archaeology, and so those two advantages, I think, are going to be about Evelyn herself rather than about Jonathan. And you discover that she has a desire to actually go to Zendrik to see some of these places, some of these archaeological digs and ruins personally. And in fact, she's quite invested in that desire. Though she would tell you that she's not got solid plans yet, but this is something that, this is like a life goal.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah. But you can see that she's kind of bookish. So having someone who's not a field archaeologist, do field archaeology, perhaps she might need a little bit of life experience or some help is what Ashley initially thinks. Maybe you need to get out and see more is her is her initial read on Evie.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, that's what we learn. That's the interaction. Evie will appreciate very much anybody who did help with the books, with picking them up and writing them, and just the fact that you were there to try and help her, even though it didn't quite work out. She appreciates all of that. And she wishes you a good day. And she says, if you have any questions about archaeology, especially about Zendrik archaeology, please come back and see me.
Absolutely.
All right.
People being interested in their brother for his archaeology. I think that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like big brains.
What?
And I was asking Ashley, I'm like, what? He's like, her brother for his archaeology. And Ashley, who didn't really get the innuendo, just because they like big brains.
If she says that out aloud, Evie would be like, no.
No, I think that's as we're walking away amongst us.
Okay.
Because I think Lynx wouldn't at this point feel comfortable speaking to Evie because she hasn't introduced herself or anything yet. She ended up just kind of being off doing her own little thing. So she's just like not gonna probably speak to her about it until it's a more personal situation, right? But she's kind of musing about it because she's like, well, what? Does he have money? Is he just looking? Like, what is she implying?
Okay. Do you want to make a check?
Person-to-person comment.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Conversation.
Very good. Yeah. So they
Curiosity.
Curiosity, yeah. There's something here that maybe we're missing. Be interesting to see which way She bent.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so we can move on. Do we still want to go to the market, or do we feel like we've found out what we need?
I think we found mostly what we need, unless we want to go after more like a meetup with.
We
Well,
want to
they-
also inquiries about Eduardo.
Yeah, I was gonna say unless we want to try to find a connection to Montalban.
Could about halfway out, somebody goes, "Guys, you guys are doing this. What are running doing this?" And we'll like on their heels to go back and as suavely as possible, like, "Oh, easy, easy. By the way, what is your mother's name in case I happen to run into him? I'd love to say hi and introduce myself if the opportunity were to arise in the meantime."
Oh, his name is Jonathan. Jonathan Carnahan.
"Oh, thank you so much. You be careful now and see you later." And Ashley will start heading out.
Yep.
As Ashley Carnahan reunites. Thank you.
No, thank Matt for putting
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So in regards to Eduardo, I feel like we don't have a huge amount of time to get exactly where I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to inform what you guys do find out upon asking people around that sort of market area and Barteros Street. Just like word on the street as far as Eduardo goes. I don't think we've got enough time to like really go hard on it right now. I will lay those things out in the chat. Pretty much what we discover is that he's a man of business. He works at his job every day. A number of people are surprised that he got the position. To them, he doesn't seem upwardly mobile enough, even though perhaps he seems to flaunt himself a bit too much. And any women that you talk to will say he's a disgusting pig. And they wish that they never had dealings with him.
Oh, okay. I'm getting some friends vibes here.
In regard to Eduardo Montalban, the word on the street is surprise at his position in the Wayfinders Society. Women generally have a poor opinion of him. There we go. What is this? So I've got an important. No, we're moving on rather than winding down. But yes, we have 40 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes or so. So yeah, but I have something to move us on to. So.
Can we get a quick bio break in then?
Oh yeah. You can have a quick bio break, and then we'll finish up.
Alright. I will be back.
Alrighty.
I'll be back.
Alright, so we are going to take our thingy and we're going to be putting it back into Daroon Gate because that is where we will finish off the session.
Cool.
How are we doing so far? Are we finding our characters okay again? It's been a little bit yeah, I think you guys have done pretty well today, I feel like, especially after a little bit of a break.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, and I'm loving the interactions, and I was actually proud of how Ashley was able to talk with Evie and the like, oh,
She passed that off so easily, like 5 successes. Holy God. That's amazing.
so funny. I was just like, yes, that's exactly what my character's MO is. And so it's just like, very satisfying.
That's great. It's good. It's good that you feel satisfied.
BRB.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Hope anyone that's watching is having a good time. We're playing our characters mostly. Hasn't been a huge amount of action, which is okay. Finding things out about what's going on, the deeper pictures. Are we feeling like the roles have been fair and Genesis appropriate? I find that my lack of recent interaction with Genesis has meant that I've been a little bit more nervous about how to set difficulties and things like that. Are we feeling like it's appropriate to our amount of experience and what's happening in the story? It's alright. Everybody is probably on their way back soon.
I'm back.
You're back? Are you feeling like our checks are sort of appropriate to our level and the story and the Genesis system?
I mean, I'm not an expert on the Genesis system, so I will just say yeah. It's probably
Just say yeah, it's alright? Yeah, feeling alright? Okay.
Probably a couple of questions for Tennessee. I think you will have a better idea.
Yeah, I mean I've run Genesis earlier, but it's been a hot minute. And so I always because there's not like broadcasted level difficulties, it's just like whatever you feel is appropriate kind of thing. I feel like the lack of direction in regards to that makes me nervous, right? Like I sort of go, is this hard? Should this be hard? Should this have setbacks? Should this be upgraded? I'm always asking myself if I'm doing things in the spirit of what's intimated in the rules, because it's not like hard coded.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're doing okay. I think everyone's happy. So as long as everyone is happy, that's, I guess, the main thing. In the end. All right. So we will be going to the next day. So I will type that out now. Saturday. And this will be the final day of winter. Final day of Olarun. And let's go into the calendar as well, and we'll mark off Thursday. Hopefully the calendar is useful to you. I'll also put in here, so it was meeting with Mordred and Kenneth, met Evie at the Archaeological Museum. There we go. That just informs what we did on that day. And we're going to the 28th now, and the meeting with Casimir. Is everybody back? No. Okay.
Okay, Chrissy, just grab one more thing and we'll be back very soon.
That's okay. We're all right. We don't have to be, I think up to half an hour is all right. Is up to half an hour all right with you in regards to your time frame?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. It's always fun, like we've all got things in our lives and just fitting things in. I really appreciate you all making the effort to be here, and
I was definitely prepared to do the usual game time, but then when I got here, Chefe was like, "I'm gonna be around," and it's like,
yeah,
okay,
may as well do stuff. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, if everyone's able to play earlier, that would be really nice, so I don't have to be out so late."
Yeah. If it's helpful.
Very. Instead of getting home to me to midnight, I'll be getting home 6 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Life is full of stuff. It's full of stuff.
Chris. Sorry. Chris.
Okay. Well, I might start our transition here. So.
Matt was also asking about balance.
What did everybody else think?
Oh.
What does everyone think about what?
I was asking Chris that you were asking about like the balance with the dice, and Chris was like, so I guess it's maybe been a little, or we just had some really bad luck at the moment.
Something.
Oh, okay. Are you feeling like there's been a bit of bad luck? The rolls have been remarkably in the favor of the purple dice. The purple dice have
Yeah.
been rolling particularly well.
Weird.
Like,
Yeah, it really has.
like in this session, we had 2 purple dice with 2 failures. That's ridiculous. We had 1 purple dice with 2 failures. Even more ridiculous. We had a purple dice roll which was fine. We had 3 purple dice with 2 failures, 3 purple dice with 3 failures, 3 purple dice with 3 failures. These are not statistically probable odds.
Right.
So yeah. But yeah, if we are getting to the stage where it seems like we're only getting sort of failure results, or if that's happening more often than not, we can I can tweak things down a little bit, because I am still just finding my way a little bit with it. So we'll see how we go. Appreciate that though. Yes, and you're right. Like it's felt a little bit on the
Yeah.
negative side of things today, except for Ashley's amazing roll.
Yeah, right. I mean, one of my rolls went okay, but I don't usually feel when I play this game. I don't usually feel that I need a ton of skill dice to make a check.
Okay.
Like usually, just the things go on average a little better than that.
Yeah, I would agree.
And it makes me feel like we need to be very, very skilled in things to do anything.
All right. Well, it shouldn't feel that way. So I'll tune it down a little. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We are making our way to the Feral Dog Tavern. It is now Saturday, or SAR, 28th of Olaroon, 999 YK, the final day of winter in Throneport. The Feral Dog Tavern is a mess of repurposed small buildings that have been joined together haphazardly whenever the owners brought new ones. As a result, the format of rooms has changed much over the years, as more appropriate spaces have become available for their purpose. It is a maze of bars, gambling tables, smoking rooms, dancing halls, and lounges. The only consistent theming is a series of murals in comic style of a dastardly dog character wearing sunglasses, who has numerous litters of pups at various stages of life, all who help him serve tables in a bar. This comic strip has become the namesake of the tavern, and the bards who sing and play here have penned many a song to Rascal and his litters. The staff are always busy. The tavern has a high turnover rate as far as employment goes, and no one seems to know who owns the place. You are taking one of the tables in one of the common rooms near one of the entrances, of which there are many, because this place is just a sprawl of different rooms. You have spoken to the one of the servers and have said that you're here to meet with Casimir, and the server has directed you to one of the tables near Conqueror. Conqueror is a board game very similar to chess in the real world. A few differences to chess in that Conqueror actually uses 2 boards, one on top of the other, and some of the pieces can attack up or down, as well as their normal orientation, which gives it another level of tactics. And yeah, so Conqueror is one of those games that can be bet upon, played, and the server says that Casimir is quite the talent at Conqueror. So you take a seat nearby and you wait. It's about 10 minutes towards the hour, and you were to meet him on the hour here. So you sit and watch and wait. There is smoke in the air due to it being a smoking establishment. People are making their way about. It is not as nice by any stretch of the imagination to the Brass Ring Inn, which is actually quite a nice establishment. People here are a little bit more rowdy and rough. Any questions or courses of action real quick before I get to the meat and potatoes of the session?
No.
Okay, in that case, you sit at your table past the hour. You feel like this is... You start, tapping your feet, fiddling your fingers, wondering where Casimir is. He said he would meet you here on the hour. He is not here on the hour. He is not here 5 minutes after the hour. And then, out of the corner of your eye, at one of the entrances nearby your table, it is about sort of medium range from you. There is a bit of a kerfuffle, a disturbance going on at the doorway. There is raised voices. There are people rushing toward and away from the door. The people rushing toward the door are the bouncers and other security and staff personnel. The people rushing away from the door are general public. One of the bouncers is kneeling down with his back to you towards the door, as if he's looking at something, and he's cocking his head as if he's listening to something. He then looks over his shoulder directly at this table where you are all seated, waiting. And then he turns back to where he was looking, says something you don't hear because you are too far away, and then looks back toward your table. He raises one hand and he gestures to your table to approach him at the door.
I'm already on my feet and thinking about heading that way when they make that gesture. So.
Okay, yep, so you're already on your way. Perfect.
Yep, Lorenzo's following suit.
Excellent. You make your way over. Okay. Yep. Lying on the floor. A slightly robust, round-faced man with mousy brown mutton chops and tall black top hat. His gold-buttoned waistcoat is amber-coloured with black pinstripes and a puffy white cravat, which counterposes his darkly tanned and soft leather trench coat. His tall black shoes venture almost to his knees and have shiny brass buckles. His loose-fitting brown pants are fastened with a leather belt, and a copper chain displaying an inquisitorial cross hangs in several coils from it. His large, rough right hand is trying to grasp an ivory-handled cane which has toppled over onto the ground, while his left is barely more than a stump, pinned on his hat which has also toppled off onto the ground. and pinned also onto his collar and belt are his badge of office, being the Inquisitive for House Tharashk's Finders Guild. Lynx, you immediately recognize this as Casimir, your contact. He is currently lying on the ground. He is gasping for air. He gestures with his hand, thrusting it upwards towards you. He says but a single word. Poison! Slumps to the ground. His throat is swelling. His mouth is open and bleeding, and his tongue is lolling out.
What did I do last time? What did I do for you? Shoot. I immediately like drop to my knee next to him and administer first aid. Yep.
All right. In this case, so there is. I will inform this roll for you. Okay. This is going to be particularly difficult, Lynx. Just as a warning.
I mean, I'm not exactly super skilled in medicine either. So that doesn't help.
All right, I am using a story point because this is meant to be kind of,
Yeah.
bad. It will be hard. But you are free to make your check.
Stay with me, Casimir.
Nice.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
All right. So, Lynx, you undertake your medicine. You kneel down next to him. You manage to open his mouth, and as you do, a single piece of cheese rolls out of his mouth and onto the floor. His eyes open for just a moment. And you see an acknowledgement in his eyes, not only of you, but also of his situation. He says two more things to you. He says, key, and presses his hand to his chest as if there is a key like on a chain around his neck. And the second word that he uses is left pocket. Left pocket.
So I'll try to locate that key, and I will check his left pocket.
Okay. Yeah, so you can feel for that. His eyes roll back into his head. He stops moving. And you see red pustules growing in his cheeks and on his neck, ever expanding. Sure sign of extreme violent allergic reaction. You know that you do not have anything on you for this allergic reaction. Or for any allergic reaction this bad. Sometimes an allergic reaction, you just, you can calm a person down and maybe it's not quite caught on enough and you can get rid of it.
Right.
But you looking at this, knowing your medical knowledge, your success, your previous success at least in getting some sort of information out of him, you don't have what you need for this. You only have moments. What would be your initial thought as to if you can possibly save this man?
I mean, to get him to a doctor.
Yeah.
Or to find a doctor. So I think I'd start saying, hey, is there a doctor here? Is there a doctor? Anyone a doctor?
All of the patrons, like, it's so frustrating, right? It is so frustrating because all of the patrons are like silent. They're not paying attention to you. They're like got their heads turned. They are not engaging with you. Because maybe they're nervous, maybe they're intimidated, maybe they feel like they're seeing a dead body and they just can't, but nobody is. The bouncers all just aren't like that. The bouncers just shake their heads with sort of not sadness, but with just, blank knowing.
And whatever was in his left pocket doesn't appear to be like medicine for whatever he's allergic to.
In his left pocket, you find a sealed note with your 3 names on it: Ashley, Lorenzo, and Lynx.
Slide that into my own pocket as I continue to. I look at one of the bouncers and I say, go find a doctor now.
They nod and they run out the door. Trying to find a doctor. For those that haven't yet acted, Lorenzo, Ashley.
I try to look for any suspicious parties nearby.
Sure. So he came in the door just now. He was outside. You can look out the door
Sure.
and let us make a perception check. This is going to be relatively easy. It's just an average check. No setbacks or difficulties. Make that roll when you're ready. Cool. You succeed. You succeed in seeing that there is no suspicious parties in your eyesight. Nobody's acting suspiciously. There are people that are looking your way, looking toward the door, as if a scene has played out leading up to now. Perhaps Casimir was limping or rushing very quickly through the streets or something like that, because it seems to you like a few of them are have noticed that things were wrong and have looked on you. So you've got onlookers, but no one that looks suspicious. You can.
I'll try to ask them.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to try to ask them what they saw. That's all.
Yeah, so they will say, so we're in Darun Gate again up here. They will say that they saw this man, and a number of them will know him by name, Casimir, come around the corner of the the checkpoint. So come through the checkpoint between Falstead and Darun Gate. He definitely came from Falstead, not from outside of the city. So he's come from inside the city through the checkpoint. He was grasping at his throat, wheezing for air, like shuffling through the streets as if he was, struggling to breathe, and then collapsed in the doorway.
You said it fell out, right?
What's that?
You said a piece of cheese fell out of his mouth?
A piece of cheese, yes.
Okay. While Lorenzo's zipping over to or just kind of gathering information, Ashley's going to go to Lynx as well to assist, I guess, and I feel like Ashley would just kind of pick up the cheese and it's like just look like a regular orange piece of cheese, nothing weird about it.
All right. It will be a check. It is different in some way to other cheese. So, what are we going to use? Streetwise or just knowledge?
We're going to do
Yeah.
or that the cheese, I guess, looks different than from a standard chunk of cheddar. I can see Ashley just observing it, just taking a whiff to try and again identify maybe what it is. Even though they're just like this.
Make a check then for me. Either perception or wow, jeez. What's going on? Holy God. Your dice are on fire. Alright, there are 3 threats there. I am going to ask you to reveal, please, a flaw of your character. The flaw of your character. The written down flaw of your character.
Yeah. Character, say, character info.
I'm gonna have a look.
I'm trying to think about how to describe this. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Maybe what happens is, Kashmir clearly just still probably feeling icky, like talks some more. Which like like I actually feels like the spittle on their face, the clothes, whatever. Maybe any lingering food particles too. And at that point, Ashley would just stand up and be like, "Oh my God, like." So just kind of like, this is my nice flower.
You're okay.
This like scene, I mean, them moment, in the like try and figure out what's going on. And oh my god, you're disgusting. Like, what's wrong with you? Why would you talk on me like that? Golly.
Yeah. So just to be clear, then, your flaw is pride, right? Yeah, so you're going to reveal that flaw based on, you like, he's coughing into your mouth and you're like, what the heck, and you can reveal that. So the bouncer present that didn't go running for help will be the one to find that out. And perhaps it will be evident a little bit to your companions, but it doesn't need to be. The three threats say that an enemy or another character will find that out. So they have found that out through how you have acted, and I will record that. However, you are successful in identifying this cheese. I have no idea how Ashley would know this. I think it's this. I think that this cheese was at one point smuggled into your area illegally, and that you got some. Maybe a friend owed you a favor and they repaid the favor by bringing you a single piece of this cheese. This cheese is a Carnathy cheese. It is world renowned. However, not very many people actually know what it tastes like because it specifically is bought and sold only really to nobles. It is high end. It is the Himalayan mountain yak cheese. It is very high end. And perhaps your contact owed you a favor, got you a single piece, and you were like,
I guess I could see maybe muttering a little bit, depending on how alert the guy is, how if Lorenzo came back in, if Link stands up, or his like whoa, touch yourself, Ashley. Like I could see Ashley just making a comment and just like rich folks with their fancy ass what even go.
you're breaking it up a little again, but it's okay. I think I caught some of it.
Ashley, there's something wrong with it. Make sure we take that. Somebody to test it.
Yes.
It's either allergic or there's something else. Don't lose that, please.
Yeah. So you can actually search his pockets and find the the sealing, the paper that is glossy on one side and rough on the other, and that you wrap lollies and things that you can wrap lollies and things in. It's kind of like that. So you can there's actually still cheese in the wrapping, so you can grab the container, the little paper container, and have that, and it's secure. It's tied. So yeah, there's not really a risk of losing it when you've got that. But I appreciate the heads up and just making sure that she's like, make sure you don't lose that. Yeah, so yeah, you secure that. You've identified it's Karnathi and it's it's noble cheese. Then we'll come back to Lynx then. Lynx, suddenly a huge amount of strength comes into Casmir's arms as you're sort of like holding him and trying to bring him back from the brink of death, which you believe him to be, like right on the edge. He all of a sudden, all of his strength comes back into him, and you feel your body being pulled down by his strength, right? Just like pull close, and you hear his breath fading. And he says the following words before he dies. He says, "All is not what it seems." And with that, his body slumps, his chest heaves, and he breathes his final breath. You did all you could. And you know, not only as your player, but as your character, she knows. Lynx knows. She had nothing for this, and even if she had something for this, she's pretty sure that with her current knowledge, and even the knowledge of a consummate professional, that with this amount of time, it was
Already too late.
it was already too late. Yeah, that's definitely. So you're not feeling like you failed, but you're feeling like something's happened that was out of your control, but you've done the best that you could. Something, all is not what it seems. The word poison, this cheese, and a key around his neck, and a note addressed to your 3 characters. And I think that's a pretty good spot to leave the session. So, thank you, good friends, for making some time to come and play. I hope you've had a good session. We will address the difficulty stuff and see if we can make it feel a little less restrictive in the future. I really appreciate that feedback, just finding my way through that, so very much appreciated. We will get 5 XP today. Well done. Most sessions will be that. Most will be 5 XP. And you have discovered a lot of things. Next session, we will have the investigation of Casmir's passing, and I think we will call it what he said with his final words. All is not what it seems. So that will be next session. Tune in if you have been watching. We will be back in approximately a month's time ish. And we look forward to being here together again. And I will chat to you guys, you players, in a second. I'm going to stop the recording for now. Anyone that's watching, thank you for watching. And until next time, catch you later.